What's up, YouTube fans? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be installing these into this. Perfect. So pricing, the eBay headers were 130 bucks. I was trying to find something, for a center pipe. I had to go with the BBK. It is a little pricey, 229 bucks. I bought some aftermarket header gaskets. I'm not going to trust the ones that came with the kit. They seem pretty cheap and came with hardware. I'm going to use the original studs, at least try. I think that will be better for holding down these things on the block as far as leaks are concerned. So yes, I bought some cheap Japanese headers, and like most of you, I'm on a budget. So I'm gonna put them in and see how they last. Maybe here in about 6 months I'll do another review, see what they look like after some road use. So first things first, before I put this thing up on the lift, see those two nuts on either side of the steering column there? Got to take both of those off because I'm going to have to disconnect the steering column, and that'll let it move over just a little bit more for access. So before I put it on the lift, that's the first thing I'm going to do. Alright, so while I'm waiting for the exhaust to cool down, I'm going to take out the lower motor mount bolts. So there's one right there if you see straight down, and then there's one, let's see if I can see it here. There's one right there straight down on either side of that motor mount there, and then on the other side same thing. There's one right there, and then there's one right on the other side. So I got to get both of those from the top. It's going to be the easiest way. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Almost missed a step. Don't forget, you got to disconnect your battery because you will be taking out the starter. So just disconnect the positive side and just pull it off. Kind of tuck it in somewhere so it's not going to touch. And maybe right down in here. There we go. Okay, so I've already taken out these bolts underneath. We're going to have to disconnect the exhaust from the front part of the exhaust. Really, the only way to do that is to just take off the whole rear section. So I'm going to leave this connected right here. But then in the back, I'm going to take off these two hangers, so this will drop, and then I'll be able to slide these out of the rubbers on both sides. I'm going to use a transmission jack, this guy here, since I'm by myself, and I'll put that up right underneath, right about here, and maybe put a strap or a chain on it and lower it down. So let me do that. It's kind of hard to film by myself, but I'll do that and I'll be back. Okay, so I got the transmission jack under it. I just did a chain over it just to help it from sliding off when I do take it off. I was able to slide this one side out. It's got that flex piece there, so it makes this movable. So I got that slid out. This one, of course, doesn't want to slide out as easy. I got it pulled back pretty much as far as it'll go back. As you can see, it's pushed up against those rubber hangers in the back, so it's slid back about as far as it'll go. But I disconnected this piece, so hopefully with that disconnected, I should be able to get this off bend that down. It's kind of hard to do with one hand, but get that out of there. A little difficult, but I could use an extra pair of hands right now. Oh, there it goes. So that came off. So now it should come out of here, just like that. And now the exhaust is disconnected. So now I can slide it forward. Just jammed myself with a piece of metal. That was great. Ouch. I don't know where that came from, but that just went into my finger. Nice. Big old piece of metal. All right, let me get this exhaust off. I gotta put the camera down. So there you go. I was able to lower it down and slide those out of the rubbers in the back, the rubber mounts. And I got the center of balance pretty good. It was a little heavy in the back, but that's why I put the chain so it wouldn't just fall on the ground. So I'm gonna lower that down and slide that out of the way. So next, there's a couple things you have to take off. Well, first, I'll disconnect my O2 sensors. I already broke them free. If you don't have the special wrench for the O2 sensors, just use a 20mm wrench. Should be able to break them free. When you put them back on, it's a good idea to put some anti-seize on them. Then you're going to need to take off the starter, just right there. Just disconnect the wires there on the end. And then there's I think that's a 10mm right there at the bottom. And there's one up here on the side, right up here, and then there's one way at the top, which is kind of hard to get to. Then there's your motor mount bracket. That's going to have to come out. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's one at the very front, up in front here. And once that comes out, which I already took the top one off the top of the motor mount right here, then this actual motor mount will slide out after you get this bracket off, and that'll give you a whole lot of room to get up in here. So I'm going to go ahead and tackle that right now, and I'll show you what it looks like after I get that stuff out. Okay, got the starter out. And so that's the lower bolt hole. Then there's one right above it, right there. And there's one way up in there in the back, right there. So that one was a little difficult to get to. I had to use a deep socket just for the length. And then once I got it started, I just took the ratchet off and turned it by hand with the socket. So that's off. You can see that's out of the way now. It was right here, so it gives you a little bit more room. Now I'm going to tackle this motor mount bracket on this side. This is where a pole jack comes in handy. Use a block of wood, put it under the front corners of the oil pan. I know it's not the best thing to do, to lift by the oil pan, but if you're by the front two corners, you should be okay. And what we're going to do is lift this motor up about, oh, I don't know, maybe 2 inches or so. So let me get this in the right position. And since I took off those upper nuts off the motor mount brackets, it should lift up slightly. Let's see here. Let's see if we can get this going up. Oh. Before I do that, I might want to disconnect the steering column. And what I'm going to do is just mark it. I'm going to put a little scribe line right there and disconnect it from here. And then this should move out of the way. So I'm trying to get the top bolt out of the catalytic converter. As you see, I have an extension all the way down there. It's a 15, and I have a swivel on it, and it's just not breaking free. I mean, I'm twisting the hell out of this extension. I'm afraid the swivel's gonna break or something, but you may have trouble with it keep falling off. I've kind of wedged it between this pipe, the AC pipe, and the strut tower there to keep it from falling down, but you might have an issue with it slipping off the nut, and if that's the case, that's where an extra hand would come in handy, so you can have somebody laying underneath while they hold on that socket onto the nut. But taking a break for a second, and I'll try wrenching on this thing again, see if I can get it to pop free. Alright, so I broke 2 3/8 swivels trying to get this top bolt out. That one right here, you can see I have a little stubby self-ratcheting wrench on it, and so I got it up in there, and you can see the wrench up in there, so I got just a little bit of room to move it. I had to put a pry bar on it and a hammer to break it free, but it's finally turning now. Little by little it's coming loose, so I got it broke free, but it sucks I broke a couple tools, but oh well. So I'm gonna keep ratcheting on that and get that sucker out of there. All right, got it out of there. So next I'm gonna lift the motor up. Got the steering column disconnected. You can see I marked it with a blue marker to keep everything in line. It's probably best to lock your steering wheel before you disconnect that, but I didn't. But I'm going to be careful and not turn anything. But okay, so I've taken off a couple of the nuts on the motor mount bracket, jacked the motor up, and now I should be able to wiggle this out. There we go. Got the actual motor mount out, and now I just need to get this nut right here, and then there's one right behind it, right up here that you can't really see. So I'm gonna take those two out, and this guy should come out right after that. Okay, got the motor mount out, got the motor mount bracket out. Now it's gonna take off all these little nuts, and then I'm gonna see if I can slip up this new header without taking out the studs. We'll see what happens. All right, you gotta be careful of the AC line. Just crack it. All right, well, we got this thing up in there. It wasn't very easy. We got the bottom 4 studs on. It looks like the top we may have to use bolts, and we're gonna have to get them from up above. Anybody trying to do this on their own, I'd recommend not to do it because it's a pain in the butt. And then I broke that AC line, so now I'm gonna have to replace that AC line, so I'm gonna have to get back in here, pull the motor mount out again, and the starter just to get to that AC line, right? This one right here. I cracked it right along the bottom edge because I was just trying to bend it slightly to get the socket up in there, but as you guys saw in the video, it started spewing, so that wasn't good. But anyways, now we get to get to this side. We gotta put the motor mount back in so we can set the motor back down. Okay, finally in. So I had to cut midway here, cut a portion off of here, cut a portion off of this one, reuse the factory clamp. Got everything in there. There was some clearance issues with the starter. We had to bend the pipe. The header bolts were a pain in the butt. I would not recommend anyone to do this on their own. There you go. So here in a second we'll do a cold start.